Hello. I love doing these silly, because I gotta hype myself up too, right? Like, okay, so I've got something that has just been on my mind and on my heart, and specifically, this is about just sharing with you like how we can deepen in our relationship with ourself and how that actually shows up in our most intimate relationships, especially when we are on the verge of breaking into new territory. And what happens, when we're on that verge, when we're leaning into our edges, right? And a lot of times what we can experience is anxiety, right? Because we're doing things, right, that are quote unquote unsafe to our ego, to our sense of identity, to our subconscious. So I'm going to share with you guys. When you get on, say hello so that I can say hello back to you. And I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about the story that I had that I think a lot of you guys can, I'm sure, relate to. And then how that also will show up in your life when you're getting ready to up level, when you're getting ready to go into the next phase, or when you're getting ready to deepen, into something. So before I do that, I am going to share this in my group. And in the meantime, say hello. Tell me what's going on for you on this Monday. I really wanted to get on and jam about this because Monday is the day ruled by the moon, and we're actually in the moon hour right now. So Monday is the moon day, and this time right now for where I'm at, in South Florida, is also the hour of the moon. And the moon rules over our comfort zones, our habits, our body, our sense of safety, security, stability, our ingrained thought patterns, like our subconscious programming. Also, the relationship that we have with our mother, which is, again, it's the Maya, it's the body, it's the mind. So let me just share this now. Oh no, I didn't mean it not to my timeline. Okay, so I'm going to share this to my group, the Mother Lovership. And so this is my private Facebook group that I have specifically. It's for mothers, it's for lovers, it's for anyone that is wanting to cultivate strength, right, and be in their power, be in their strength as both a mother, as both so, and what I mean by a mother is anytime that you're nurturing new life, you're a mother. Okay, you don't have to have children, quote unquote, of your body, but if you're a creative, right, you are nurturing something. You have, you're bringing to life something new in the world, whether it's an art piece, whether it's, redecorating your home, or you're wanting to birth a new life, it's that takes nurturance, right? You have an inspiration, you have an idea, you have a dream, and now, right, that requires you to nurture it, because if you don't nurture it, right, it's not going to grow. So, and what are you choosing to grow in your garden, right? We can either nurture and feed our fears and allow these weeds to take over our space, so then we feel like we don't have space in our life. We feel like smothered by the people in our life, because what we're doing is we're feeding the weeds. We're feeding the negative thought forms. And this is exactly the perfect segue of how I'm going to go into this story, right? Because if you're doing that, then you're all of that energy and all of that love and all of that life force that could be going into nurturing your dream life, right? What it is that you really desire for your life. Hey, John, is not there, right? So that's what I mean by being a mother, right? Is having the wisdom and having the devotion um, to incubate love and creativity, okay? And then, of course, the lover piece, right, is about soulmating. It's about this relationship that we have with our own soul, right? And as we become more intimate with our soul and we give that space, right, and we are willing to lean into our out of our comfort zone, lean into the edges, right? We're giving space for our soul to grow into, right? We're becoming more intimate with who we really are. And as we do that, that will then show up in our outside world as our partnerships, right? Whether it's a romantic partnership, a business partnership, any sort of relationship that we have to anything outside of us. Okay, so here's the story. So, when I was pregnant with my first child, with my son, Bazi, this was not it wasn't planned, right? I was still actually finishing up, I believe, my last year, yeah, when I had him, I was in my last semester, but when I got pregnant, I was in my last year of acupuncture school. And so, I mean, I had already been with my husband. We'd already been married and we'd been together for quite a while. And we always knew that we wanted to have kids. I mean, from like, from the get go, we already had names picked out and like, all of these dreams, things, that we had shared together. But I wasn't planning, right? We weren't planning on getting pregnant, right? And so when I found out I was pregnant, the first thing, of course, I wanted to do was to call my mom. And so remember, like I was saying, our mother, right, is a symbol for our mind. It is for our subconscious. It's also the veil, right? It's this filter of the illusion of 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 what makes us feel safe and comfortable and secure, right? So here it is. I just found out I'm pregnant. And look, here's the first thing that I'm doing as a mother, as I'm growing myself as an actual, like now I'm a like quote unquote real mom, right? So I'm having this conversation with my mother. Okay? So I say to her, I was like, hey mom, I'm pregnant. And right away, she starts going into fear. She starts going into just this fear, essentially, right? And it's all like this. It's like blah, 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 blah. Okay? So just think about that. Anytime that you're wanting to start something new, right? You have this dream, right? Here's this little seed that's in the womb that I'm incubating or inside of you. You have this, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? And if what happens, you start having the mind, which is your subconscious, start doing this in the back of your head, blah, 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 all the fear, why you can't do it, right? And so, meaning, and I'm talking about like all the excuses that we make, right? Like there isn't enough time, there isn't enough money, if I do this, then somebody won't like me. If I do this, then da 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 da. What will so and so think? You know, I mean, the thing is our minds we're all incredibly intelligent, and so the mind will come up with any excuse that you basically give your attention to, that you allow to have more power, essentially, And the thing with the mind, right, is the mind is meant to be a servant to the heart. And the thing with the subconscious, with this mind, right, is that it is subconscious, meaning a lot of times it is below the level of your conscious awareness. You don't even realize that you're giving it all this power, that you're, So as I was on the phone with my mom, right? And I just said to her, I said, look, Mom, I said, I love you so, so much, right? And this is my life, and this is my baby. And I said, if you're not going to be able to support me, then I can't have you in my life right now. Because what I am requiring for me to be the kind of mom that I want to be is to be in love and not in fear. And what I'm hearing from you right now is all fear. And it's not really supporting me. And it's not allowing me to grow. So I said, I love you so much. And so I'm going to hang up now. And you have a choice of where you're going to meet me. And I hung up the phone. And so this is something that we can all do, right? Like we all in every moment have this opportunity to what I call disengage with the with those negative thoughts, right? And first, number one, you have to become aware of them, right? These usually show up as triggers, right? Because the moon is the place in us where we're sleepy. It's where we're reactive. We're like little babies. We're sleepy, we're cranky, we're tired, we're reactive. And then we go into our, our little temper tantrums, or we start crying and whining. Okay? So anytime that you're experiencing a trigger, and we all have, depending upon where our moon is, and this is the astrological piece, identifying, what sign, what house, the different aspects and alignments that your moon has with different placements, right? All describes your subconscious, right? And this very early imprinting that we received as children, as we received in utero, and that is actually our lineage, right? That is our family's story. So by first becoming aware of the fact that it's a trigger, then we can, there's a way to do this, right? Like a lot of times, number one, in order to remain present and not shut down and go into fear and keep our hearts open, a lot of times when we're first starting this process, what we have to do is disengage, which is like what I did with my mother, where it was like, let's separate, right? Like, let's wait, let's take some space so that, I can really see clearly here what's going on, because the moon, it's like soul couture is what I call. So you don't even realize that you're wearing it, right? But when you distance yourself, right, and you can separate yourself, then you can see it for what it really is, right? And so this is the deeper work, is then after you've identified the trigger, is then to go into seeing it for what it really is, right? After you bring it out of the shadows, you shine some light on it. It's no longer something that feels scary or feels, you're not reactive towards it, right? Because now you're getting to see it for what it really is. Because what that really was my mom, right? In her love for me, she wanted me to have the very best in my life, right? It wasn't that she didn't love me. It wasn't that, she didn't trust me or that she didn't think I was going to be a good mom. It was, I love you. I think that you're you're my child, you're my baby, and I want the very best for you, right? But that's not how it was coming out. That's not how she was communicating it, right? Because there was all this fear in between our connection, right? And so that's what I mean by lifting the veil, right? It's that thing that's in between. So, and that's like this, going into the second part of this, is then you get to start translating, well, because there's always a gift in there, right? But as you're going through this process, like sometimes we're not stable enough within ourselves to be able to hold that presence and translate in the moment what's actually happening, right? The more you do this process, and this is what I teach, everybody, for sure, just as like a foundation in their work with me, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's in my group coaching, mentoring, containers, is being able to train yourself, like, because then you're solid, right? Like, you're solid. Doesn't matter what comes your way. You're able to, in that moment, hold your presence, right? Because you've practiced recognizing that there's nothing to fear, right? Like, the only thing to fear is fear. And, so, yeah, so she ended up calling me back on the phone and was just like, oh my God, of course I love you. Of course I want to be in your life. Of course, like this, I want this to be, I want to be a part of this, your journey. I want to be a part of this relationship, right? And so for me, that was me. That was my moon. That was my inner mother saying to me, of course, like, if we're going to do this and we're going to do this the way that we want to do this, like, I'm willing to let go of all of the ways that I want to be in control, all of the ways that, I want to stay in fear or whatever and try to control freak, scenarios, and just be in trust and be in love, right? And so that for me was so pivotal, right? Because it really laid the groundwork for my whole pregnancy that I had with my son. Which was just the most amazing, incredible pregnancy I could have ever dreamed and asked for. I mean, everything from the whole pregnancy to the whole birthing experience to, it was just so magical and beautiful. So, but it required that solid beginning container, right, of like that garden bed, and that recognition of, this is my life. I'm choosing what goes into my garden bed. I'm choosing what seeds I'm going to water, what weeds I'm not going to water. And so here's like the deeper work is, you can just choose to simply not water the weeds, right? But a lot of times, like Shakespeare, I think, has this great quote about like, the difference between what a flower and a weed is perspective, right? Or judgment or something like that. So, all of these triggers that we may have, or the fear that comes up when we really become more intimate with ourselves, you can alchemize, right, those weeds or those fears into what they really are. Because, that what I've alchemized, right, was that with that relationship that I had with my mother, and and that what she was doing on the other line on the telephone, right, was basically saying like, look, you're in charge. Like, how it came out on first was all I heard was fear and control. But when you really alchemize that, the gem is that I have incredible charge over my life. I get to choose, right? I get to have mastery, right? And I definitely will say that, like, as I've grown, I mean, I have 3 children. All 3 of them I've given birth to at home, right? Like, I have creativity coming out of my ears. Like, I am never at a lack for ideas, for problem solving, for art, for things that I want to create. That is something that I have been blessed with, right? And so that is, whenever that voice comes up, right? That's what I know is on the other side of it, right? Is like me taking more ownership and mastery over my role as a creative. So, but I wanted to share this with you because as we grow, again, anytime that we start leaning into our edges and going out of our comfort zone, that's what's very common to come up, right? Is fear and all of the emo drama, the blah, 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 blah. And what happens is if you give over your power to that, then what happens is you will revert. You go back into the safety. You go back into, right? And I've seen this happen not only in my fertility work with clients where, they're not able to get pregnant. And this is why, because when they plant that seed, instead of watering that seed, they start watering the fears and the doubts and the insecurities, and they don't take action towards nourishing themselves and nourishing what it is that they want. Whether this again is, having a child of your body or creating anything new in your life, right? It's, you're in charge. What are you choosing? Are you choosing love or are you choosing fear? And so at first, when you start noticing, the fear coming up, disengage, right? Like disconnecting with that old story. And a lot of people, I don't think, take the time to actually go back, to actually go into the story and start reimagining and rewriting that story, which is which is what I do, is soul retrieval, right? And again, like a lot of people just practice like that disengage. Like, for example, I think Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction, a lot of times that's their, the approach that they take is like, just keep focusing on the positive, right? And they don't ever take the time to actually clean up and alchemize and rewrite the story. And for me personally, and what I have found just incredibly valuable with my clients, and also the feedback that I've received from my clients, is that there's so much. You get to mine so many more gems and become way more intimate with yourself when you're able to do that. So, but again, there is an art and there is a process to doing that. So, anyhow, that's just what I wanted to share with you guys. And I invite you, if you are in this place of your life where you're looking to just unapologetically own your desires and know that you don't have to choose. You don't have to choose between love and security. You don't have to choose between living your wildest dreams and money. You don't have to choose between love and money. You don't have to choose between freedom and security. You get to have it all. And the way that I did it, right, is I hired someone. I hired a mentor. I did the things that were uncomfortable, but I didn't have to do it in a way where I sacrificed anything. It was just a matter of being so devoted to my own heart that I was willing to do what was a little uncomfortable. But then once you just do it, it's like, just like with anything, it's a muscle that you flex and it starts becoming second nature. And in fact, it becomes incredibly pleasurable. It becomes like, it's so anxiety, coming back to anxiety, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling agitation, what that means is you're leaning into an edge, right? But what our invitation, right, is not to suppress it, right? And that's what, that's why we have drugs, why people drink alcohol, that's why people smoke marijuana, that's why, people take anti-anxiety medication, why we distract ourselves, right, is because we're not willing to stay in the uncomfortableness, right, and soften there. Because if you soften into those edges, right, that's how you bring your love, that's how you bring your liquid consciousness, which is essentially your blood, and that's how you grow, right? And when you grow, when you bring the love there, essentially the liquid consciousness, that's where the romance with life starts to happen. Because essentially that's what romance is. It's like, it's when we're in that romantic place, like I'm sure we've all been there, when you start falling in love with somebody, right? It's like, it's a little uncertain. Like, you don't know, like, oh my God, like, this could be the one, or, you know, like it's exciting, it's thrilling. There's a little bit of danger, but not so much. It's like you've struck the perfect balance between excitement, like thrill, and a little bit of danger, that it like just gets you going, right? And you get on this momentum, right? This is why we hire coaches, right? It's because you're also engaging with this romance with this other person that you've chosen to be upright for you, right? And to hold that space open, that place that you're trying to move through, like the birth canal. When you're moving through the tunnel, it's somebody who holds that space open and lubricates it, essentially, right? So it feels good and you can see what's on the other side. A lot of times when we're in fear and we're in contraction and you're like, you can't see what's on the other side. So when you can't see, you're not tapped into that vision, that highest version of yourself. It's easy to doubt. It's easy to kind of like go back, so to speak, right? So, but we have to hold that open, right? Hold that space open and keep that momentum going. So again, and then it becomes incredibly pleasurable. It becomes erotic. It becomes mind-blowing. It becomes so expansive and freeing and liberating, right? And so, but it requires for you to take that action, right? And it doesn't have to be reckless action, right? Meaning when we're taking action just to kind of get out of the fear and just do something because we're tired of feeling the fear. So we're just trying to like do something to get out of the fear place. It's listening to that soft inner voice of the heart. What is the heart telling me to do? And if I'm so devoted to my heart, right, then taking the action and then doing that thing that you think you cannot do. No matter what the blah, 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 subconscious fear, ego part of you wants to say that you can't. Because the truth is if you want to stay where you're at, right, like that's how you stay where you're at, is by continuing to let the mind tell you why you can't do it. Because the reason that you want to move into that next place, right, is so that you doing those other things become comfortable, right? It's like, for example, if you're wanting to have more money, right, like you have to start living as if you have more money, spending the kind of money you would be spending if you had that kind of money, but not doing it in a way that totally constricts you. Hey, Ray. Okay, good. So you're definitely going to want to listen to this from the beginning. You're going to love this, especially as a mama. I know that you'll really appreciate it and you'll get the metaphors. So coming back to what I'm saying, like, so for example, with the money analogy, you got to get used to being the kind of person that's, if you're having more money, right, somebody who has more money, who has that type of wealth, right, they don't cringe, they don't go into panic mode or into, I can't do it, I can't spend like $500 or whatever it is, whatever the number is, whatever for you is uncomfortable, right? They don't do that, right? It's like, they're emotionally stable in that. So you have to be able to do that first. You have to be able to do that first, and they take action on it, and then make it your new normal. And I had to do this, right? It's like, it's not like I got all the money and then I started becoming comfortable spending more money. It's like, no, I had to start investing in myself, in doing the things that felt uncomfortable, but in a way where I knew I was listening to my soul. I knew that this was what my soul wanted, that this was me growing, that this was me choosing to believe in myself and making that feel empowering and emotionally backing up my decisions, right? And then also surrounding myself, cultivating that environment that was going to nurture that new life, right? So, and it's the same thing with your body, right? Like if you want to have a different kind of relationship with your body, right? Like, what would that version of you that has the body that you want, what sort of things are you doing every day, right? Like, are you going out and going on nature trail walks? Are you showing up at the gym every day looking super cute and feeling awesome in your, in your workout outfit? Are you dancing, right? Are you spending that 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, like, just dancing crazy with your kids in the house? Like, just spontaneously, hey kids, let's go for a bike ride. Like, you got to do it, right? And you have to do it in a way where you're all of the emotional, and this has to do with your nervous system. And so, the nervous system is like, there's a lot of different techniques that you can do to start deprogramming the fear that is wrapped up in the nervous system. So these are all the things that I teach, of course. Tapping is one that a lot of people like. It's working with the acupuncture points, and you start tapping, as you're starting to experiencing the anxiety. And so if you're feeling the anxiety and you're wanting to do something, right, and it's just as simple as tapping, these acupuncture points, right, as it's happening, till you clear out that emotional program that says it's not safe for you to do whatever it is that you're trying to do that feels scary, whether it's spending the money, writing something, putting something out there, going and taking that class, going and joining that group, having a difficult conversation. Maybe it's having sex, maybe it's wearing an outfit, whatever it is for you, So, you have to remember that it's just all fear, right? And the more that you just get into that place of looking at it and being like, I see you. Hey girl, it's nothing personal, but like, this is my show. Like, I can consult you, because the thing is, the mind is meant to be a servant. It's a servant of the heart. I call it the intuition is queen. The mind is a divine liaison. So meaning, it's like the queen has her consultants, right? And it's like, or the king has his consultants, his wise men, right? And it's like, I consult you. It's like, oh, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? What haven't I considered? What options are out there? And so the mind doesn't always just come up with fear. The mind also has tons of other amazing qualities that it can bring to you, right? Like, it's what brings us the ideas. It's what brings us the insights. But we have to recognize its position. Like, when you own your position and you sit on the throne of your life as sovereign, I'm calling the shots. I'm in charge here. And the mind is just for me to consider options, right? And it's a servant. It's meant to do things for me, not for it to be the other way around, right? Like, not to be in control, because you are the authority of your life, okay? So, you guys have any questions? If not, I'm going to wrap up. That's it. That's all I wanted to say on this moon day, on the day of the moon, in the hour of the moon. Because again, remember, the moon rules over the subconscious, the mind, feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling stable, feeling nourished, the garden bed, how we, how we care for ourselves. So, yeah. The other thing, I've got a lot of things brewing right now. I always do, like I said. I've always got all these ideas and things, and I'm thinking of what I'm playing around with is doing a month Hot Body Goddess. Hot Body Goddess is a program that I used to offer when I was more, brick and mortar, seeing people one-on-one in person, which I still do, but, my work has revolutionized. But this was a lot for people that wanted to transform their body, right? Whether it was weight loss or just becoming more physically, fit and active, and self-care, essentially, like really learning how to nourish and care for their body and worship their body like a goddess, right? And so I've been it's because it's Mercury retrograde, right? And so what happens with Mercury retrograde is a lot of times all of the old, it's like reviewing all of your, all of the stuff from the past, right? And so this is kind of coming up again, and I'm feeling into it of like, oh, like, what would that look like? What would that feel like? Is this something that I'm still really passionate about? Is this something that I would still really enjoy doing, right? Because I get a lot of people that reach out to me about, weight loss and, and their body and health and, but for me, it's got to be like, I got to do it my way, right? Like, I got to do it my way. It's got to be super fun for me. It's got to be, because I'm always innovating. For me, it's always got to be new and fresh and entertaining, because if it's not, then I'm just like, I'm bored. I'm like not into it. So I've been feeling into that, like, is this something that really still excites me? And, how would this excite me? Because I'm writing my own story. Like, I get to do this. This is what, I teach people when I, in my mentoring with their business, is like, you get to do business the way you want to do business, right? There's no rules. You get to do it how you want to do it. And when you're doing what you want to do and you're having lots of fun with it, then that's when people want to jump on the bandwagon, right? Because if you're not having fun, nobody really cares. So that's what I've been tuning into, is like, where is this coming from? Why do I want to do it? How do I want to do it? Who do I want to do it with? All of these questions. So, and this would be, like really centered around the moon, right? So this would be, if you're really wanting to learn about the moon, like understanding how to bring more balance to your body, to your hormones, to the balance, like the work-life balance, like balancing like your love life and your children and maybe your career, like your self-care, balancing all of these different areas of your life. And if you kind of feel like taking care of yourself is something that's on the back burner, right? Whether it's just because you don't simply know how to make time for yourself, you don't really know what you need, or you get lost, you get distracted, you don't know how to feed your body, what your body wants. Working with just your emotions, like bringing more emotional stability to your life, like understanding your personal ebbs and flows, right? So that instead of you constantly feeling like you're on this roller coaster, right? Like you're actually surfing waves, like literally riding waves. And like for me, like I really I love fitness. I love training. I love working out. So it definitely would be including that in, exercises, for you to be doing and foods to be eating. And I see this as being like a group offering. I see this as a group container, women like having a goal of maybe, when they're done, they want to get like professional photos taken, like, or they want to be like super sexy in their bikini or some costume that they're getting ready for. Maybe it's, not being so silly with like the holidays coming up, how everybody like ends up like, I get the fucking most fit ever during the holidays. Like I have like the best physique ever during the holidays. So if that's kind of like a concern for you, or you always find like that during the holidays you tend to put on weight or you tend to get really stressed out, right? Like this would be ideal. Yeah, and I'm seeing this as something group. I'm seeing this as group. I'm seeing offering Voxer support. as well, which is basically a walkie-talkie app, so that you get access to me like in real time, like that, like, hey, like I'm at the gym, what should I do, right? Or hey, like I'm thinking of making dinner, or I'm experiencing this right now, like I'm really having a tough day and I really need a friend, like boom, right? Like get access to me via Voxer. And you also have the wisdom and the support of other women in the group, other women to really step into their power as leaders, as sisters, and support you. So yeah, that's what I'm one of the offerings. I've got a lot actually, and so I'm going to tune into that a little bit more, see if that's something that I want, and how I want it. I've got like this other really really cool one, which I'm not going to share about because it doesn't feel appropriate to share about it, but it's super super fun. It's super, um, it's it's something way newer, right? It's something that I've never done before, like in this type of way. Like I've done this work with myself, but I've never offered it. Um, you know, um, I've never offered it as a group. I've done it one on one with people. Um, Kind of like Hot Body Goddess, although I've done group work. Again, like it wasn't called Hot Body Goddess, it was my Star Disco, which that I still definitely, I am feeling my energy in that. That's for sure, and that's astrology and magic, right? But it's not just teaching you astrology and teaching you magic. It's also about like how to be the temple, right? Like how to really be that channel, right? To like the stuff that you're doing every day as a lifestyle, to be practicing magic, not just, you know, not just like when you're making the candles or when you're making it's like something that builds and builds and builds, so that when you actually have that rite, when you have that ceremony, you manifest stuff like full paid, all expenses paid vacations to Hawaii, like what happened to me, or like manifesting like amazing bicycles, or just like incredible, like over the top experiences, like within days of the ritual. And then you get to keep the talismans, and that magic keeps going, right? But um, yeah. So because I mean I do this stuff anyway. I'm doing it like all the time for myself, so I might as well, like, if people want to join me on the journey, they can join me, right? Because I'm going to do it either way. I'm doing it either way. So if you want to learn how to do that, if you want to learn about astrology the way I practice astrology and magic, then hit me up about that. So yeah, so that's it. I love you guys. Happy Monday. Talk to you soon.